Looks like it is. All right, here we go. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our session today on AP Computer Science Principles. We have lots of people coming in. We are going to drop a link into the chat so that we can get our attendance numbers for today. So if you could just click through this link, it will just mark that you are here so that we have our numbers for our session. And we're going to wait just one more minute for everyone who is still trying to get into our session for today. If you could introduce yourself in the chat, you can just say where you are, if you used CodeHS before, maybe if you've taught CSP before. We are going to get some more information about that in a bit, but it is always nice to see who's with us. We have a large group here today. We're really excited to go through all of our content for our AP CSP course. Awesome, thanks Heather. Taught CSP for 1 year so far. Many more to come. Awesome, teaching in New York City, great. Awesome, new teacher to CSP, awesome. Have used CodeHS before, but now teaching AP for the first time, awesome. It's great to see how many different scenarios we have, and we are going to make sure that we get all of you exactly the information you came for. So we are going to get started because we have so much to go over today, and I want to make sure that we can pack it into our 2 hours. So first I'm just going to introduce everyone that's here with us today. We have a large team from CodeHS with us on this workshop. So my name is Julia Trigo, and I am working this summer as a PD specialist for CodeHS. And I used to work for CodeHS as a curriculum developer. And this last year, I went back into the classroom. So during the school year, I work in a high school in Virginia, but I'm really excited to be here this summer to show teachers all the different courses that we have and the different ways that you can use CodeHS in your classroom. I am joined by David Burnham, who is the curriculum developer for our AP-CSP courses. And he's going to give us a lot of information about these courses, what they entail, and all some tips and tricks that you can use to bring this information to your students. So we're going to go through some sample lessons with Dave in a little bit. And then we also have Linda here, who is on the PD team as well, and she is going to be leading us through some information about the create task for computer science principles. And we're going to get to hear from her a little bit later. And we also have MR here, who is going to be answering all your questions, giving you lots of links and information so that you feel totally supported and you feel that you got everything answered, all the questions that you came with answered. So when it comes to questions, we are going to give a link to a question parking lot. So we have a lot of people on the call today, and we want to make sure none of your questions get lost. We want to make sure everyone is able to get a full, complete answer to anything that they're wondering. So if you could have this question parking lot open on the side, it will be really helpful for you to, as soon as a question pops into your head, just head over to that document and type in your question, and we will be answering those questions throughout our session today. So no need to wait until the end of the session to ask those questions. Make sure that you get those in there, and we will put some links and help articles so that you are able to get more information on anything you're wondering. All right, so if you don't have an account on CodeHS, just kidding, we're gonna get to that in a minute, but we do have a workbook that's gonna be so helpful for you during our session. So if you have, this is a great other document to have open in the background. I know we're bombarding you with links right now, but we have a lot of resources to make sure that you have lots of things to reference, both during our workshop and after our workshop. So this workbook is going to have a lot of links to the different items that we're going to be touching on during our session. So this is a really helpful thing to stay on track and make sure that you are in the right place. All right, so now if you don't have a CodeHS account yet, you can go right to codehs.com/sign up, and you can create a free teacher account. It's going to ask you some information about your school so that we can get you verified as a teacher. And if you already have an account, you can get signed in right now. We're going to be using that account today during our workshop. If you don't have an account yet, but you are brand new to CodeHS and you think that step might overwhelm you, totally fine for you to sit back and just watch our session today, and then you can always create an account afterwards. We're going to be sending this recording out after our session, so you will be able to revisit that and go through all of this content at your own pace later if you would like. So if you do have your account and you're already on CodeHS, we are going to be using a demo section today. So this is going to have a lot of information that is in a lot of the content from our CSP course. And it's also going to have specific information that we are going to use as we go through some sample lessons today, some additional resources. So this is a really, really awesome thing for you to join in. So we have the link in the chat. And if you're asked for a code, it is just those 5 last digits. So B9771 is how you can join our workshop session for today. And that is the same way that students join courses on CodeHS as well. So if you have taught with CodeHS before, you know that this is how you get your students enrolled. So you are getting enrolled in our section as a student for our workshop. All right, I'm just going to pause for about a minute, let everyone get all of those different things up and ready to go. Have those 2 documents, your workbook and your questions. Get enrolled if you need to. I know that we're getting started right off the bat. So if you have questions, make sure you put those in the parking lot and we can help you. We can see a lot of things from behind the scenes. So if something's not working for you, you can throw it in the parking lot as well, and we can get you some answers there. So while you get that all sorted out, I'm just going to go through our agenda for today before we hop into our content. So we just got our accounts set up, got enrolled in our demo section. And now we're going to start by getting a little information about you and where you are in your journey with AP Computer Science Principles and CodeHS. And then we are going to go through the course and get some information about those different offerings that we have and what content is going to be included there. And then Dave is going to bring us through a full sample lesson from the CSP course. And he's going to show you some tips and tricks that you can use with your students to get them engaged using the resources on CodeHS. And then we're going to debrief that lesson and see what were those moves that he made and why did he make those decisions. And then we're going to look at some specific instructional strategies for CSP and look at the create task. So we're going to be able to look through some samples and see how those create tasks are graded. And debrief a little bit about what that all means. And then we're going to look at a lot of additional resources that are available for specifically the CSP course, as well as tools and resources that are available on CodeHS in general. So I think we are ready to go. Thank you, Linda, for dropping that workbook link again. So if you came in late, make sure you have that workbook open. We also have links to the question parking lot in the workbook and links to the workbook from the question parking lot. So as long as you have one of those open, you should be able to get all of our resources for today. All right, I'm going to throw it over to Dave to get us started.
All right, thanks, Julia. So again, make sure you have the workbook open. We're going to be going through some of that. But before we do that, I want to just kind of throw out a couple questions. So you can use your phone to take a picture of the QR code and answer this poll, or you can go to slido.com and enter that number in. But the first question is, what's your experience with CodeHS? Have you not used it before, limited use, or have you used it in the classroom for a few years? So let us know where you are with this. Again, we want to try to tailor what we do today to the experience levels of people that have been here. So I just want to see where everyone's at. All right, so it looks like a lot of people are just kind of starting out with CodeHS, and this is a great place to do that. Or if you've used it a little bit, it's also a good place. We're going to share some resources, some that are a little bit newer and some that you may not have heard of. I know I used it in the classroom for 2 or 3 years, and always a lot of new things that kind of came along. And so it's good to kind of see some of those things, and we're going to kind of demo some of those as we go today. So next question, what's your experience with AP CSP curriculum? Not specifically on CodeHS, but just have you taught it before? Taught it once or twice. I've not taught it in the last 2 years, which means that you might not have seen the newer curriculum that came out 2 years ago, or have taught it for a little longer. All right, so yeah, so it looks like a lot of people are still kind of new to CSP as well. And again, we're going to talk not specifically a lot about the curriculum today, but we are going to look a little bit at the curriculum, and we are going to talk about the create task, and that's a great place. I know as a new teacher, a lot of new teachers are feeling overwhelmed with the create task. So we are going to touch on that, but we're not going to go too deep into the curriculum, just kind of looking at the course at a high level. And then finally, if you know what you're going to be doing as far as a language next year, I'm just curious how many people are planning on using Python, JavaScript, something else, or not sure yet. And so our Python course was new last year. Previously, we just had the JavaScript course, and we saw nearly 50% of the people taught the course in Python. So I'm just curious how that's going. Both courses are pretty good, and we'll talk a little bit about them in a few minutes here. All right, so let me give you an overview of our AP courses, AP CSP courses, and we do have 3 of them now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about all 3. So in the AP courses, students have a chance to learn using our traditional Carol modules. So this is kind of how they start out with some very basic coding principles. From there, we also have things like the internet simulator. So again, AP CSP is not just about coding. It does get into other contents, and we do have different pieces to help them with that. And including, binary bit editor. As we explore binary, we look at different options with binary. Now, as I said, we offer the course in 2 different languages. So our AP courses are offered in these 2 languages, but you'll notice that the courses are nearly identical, and that's by design. So we've created a JavaScript and a Python course using the same lessons, just a different language. Now, the one exception to this is our data structures unit, which gets into arrays in JavaScript, and then in Python, because they're a little bit different, we wanted to expose students to both lists and in dictionaries and things like that. And so we get a little bit different. We kind of go a little bit different there in Python, but they're very similar courses otherwise. Now we also have a 3rd course, our AP CSP Cybersecurity course. So in partnership with the National Cybersecurity Training and Education Center, we've developed this cybersecurity version of our AP CSP course. So like our other 2 courses, it's fully endorsed by the College Board. And it is right now based in JavaScript. And so we've taken our JavaScript lessons and these Insight lessons and Insight Center lessons and put them together to create this course. So while this course right now is endorsed and it is in JavaScript, we are actually creating a version of the cybersecurity lessons in Python, and they'll be out later this summer, about middle of August. And so if you do want to teach this course in Python, you'll be able to do so by taking our existing AP CSP Python course and integrating the Insight lessons into that. And we're going to provide a guide to how that works. But right now, the JavaScript version of this course is out there. It is fully endorsed by College Board. And one thing to note, it basically takes a lot of our content that we had I would say it's AP CSP first, and then we add in some of the cybersecurity content. We remove a little bit of the content from the JavaScript course, but we're adding more back in. And so it probably adds about 10 to 15 hours worth of total classroom time above and beyond the AP CSP courses that we have. All right, so let me give you a quick overview of the CodeHS courses. So if you're new to CodeHS, this might be new to you. If you've seen it before, it should be old hat. So our courses are broken down into modules. So a module contains content and some of these correspond directly to College Board units, others do not. We also have supplemental modules that contain practices. Modules are then broken down further into lessons. Lessons generally take 1 to 2 classes to complete. Some of them are a little bit longer, some are a little bit shorter. And each module contains a summative test at the end. So then when we get into our lessons, lessons are broken down into different activities. And typically lessons start with video and add a quiz and a check for understanding after that. Then they usually contain 2 to 3 examples as well as 2 to 3 auto-graded exercises. Okay, and as we mentioned earlier, we're going to go through a sample lesson today. So our sample lesson today comes from our JavaScript course. And as we go through this lesson, I'm going to try to hit all the different parts of the lesson, but keep in mind that I may not always give you enough time to complete a task. Because we're in this PD format with limited time, we want to make sure that we're giving you a chance to see things, but not necessarily have a chance to complete everything. So we'll look at some different ways of presenting material in a remote setting. But one thing to keep in mind is that as the PD has a large number of people, there's times when I would probably ask for student input, but we're not necessarily going to ask that because of the PD format. I also wanted to mention that everything we do today can be done with either our free or our pro plan. You'll see discussion questions and other resources used in the lesson, and those questions usually come from our lesson plans, which are part of the pro plan. But as a free teacher, you can always generate similar content and use that similar content. Okay, so with that, we're going to get started. And again, make sure you have the workbook open. MR just posted the link back into the chat. So the CSP workbook is going to have the links to some of our exercises that we're going to look at today. So again, starting with lesson 1.4. So this lesson comes relatively early on in the course. Students at this point have really just been introduced to Carol. So if you have not seen Carol or any of our Carol exercises, you should generally be okay keeping up with this today. And again, this is going to be in JavaScript. So if you're used to Python, you should be able to generally keep up. These commands that we're looking at are relatively basic at this point. All right, so as an opener in the chat, what I would like you to do is answer the question, what can Carol the dog teach us about programming, and how are dogs similar to computer programs? So take a second to think about that if you're familiar with Carol. Carol is our dog that we give commands to and moves around based on our commands. So how can we use that to help teach us about programming? So take a second to answer that. Yeah, dogs are happy just like computers. I wish dogs were always happy and computers were always happy. I like that answer. But yeah, I think seeing some responses here, I think Carol is very similar to Carol, dogs are similar to computers that, they know basic commands. And if you tell them a basic command, they can follow it. If you don't tell them a command they understand, they don't know how to follow it. And we have to teach our dogs new commands. So in today's lesson, we're really going to take a look at how we can teach Carol a new command. So if you remember at this point, Carol has a very limited number of commands that he knows. He knows a few basic commands. I think I can get a list here. So right now, Carol knows move, put ball, turn left, and take ball. In the last exercise or the last lesson, we saw that we wanted to have Carol go up and turn right, but we learned that Carol can't actually turn right. So here, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create Carol's world here, where Carol goes out, puts a ball, makes a ball tower, and then stands on the top of that tower. So if I come back to my code, I can see, okay, I need to move forward one. If I run this, I'm going to see Carol moves one spot over, doesn't get to where I need, but then I'm going to turn left and tell Carol to turn left. And then I can have Carol place a ball. So place ball. I run it again. Oops. So put ball. All right, so I get one ball and I need to kind of go up and continue this pattern. So I'm going to just put a couple commands here and copy and paste a couple times because the students do not know loops just yet. Okay, and I'm close. It says Carol should be facing east, but is facing north. And I want to say Carol turn right, but if I put down turn right, I'm going to find out that Carol does not know how to turn right. And so it says Carol doesn't know how to turn right. How can we do this? Well, we can use turn left. And so we're going to use our turn left 3 times to get Carol to turn right. But just like my dog, I want to teach Carol to turn right. It's great that Carol can turn left and he can turn left 3 times, but I want to teach him to turn right. And we do so in computer science. We teach new tricks by using what we call functions. And we can create a function in JavaScript that is called turn right. And by doing so, we're going to actually teach Carol to turn right. And the way we do this in JavaScript is we use the keyword function, and then we give it the command that we want to teach Carol. So we want to teach Carol how to turn right. I'm going to use open and close parentheses there, and then open and close curly brackets. And now all of the commands we have inside our curly brackets are actually going to be what happens to turn right. And so we know to turn right, we need to turn left 3 times. Okay, so now I've taught Carol this trick, turn right. But if I run this, I want to see nothing really happens. Nope. Not sure where that came from, but we're okay. So I taught Carol how to turn right, but I never actually told Carol to turn right. And so I need to actually move this down a little bit. And then I can say, okay, here I'm going to turn right. So I've taught Carol how to turn right, but now I have to actually tell Carol to turn right. So this is kind of teaching him down here, but now I'm actually going to tell him to do it up here. And there he goes. And you'll notice that I taught him to turn right by taking 3 left turns. And when I run this code, you'll see that the code actually jumps down from line 9 back down into here, runs these 3 commands, and then comes back up to the next command here, but there are none. And the great thing about this is now that I've taught Carol how to turn right, Carol can turn right as many times as I want. I don't have to redefine that function. Okay, now we're not going to necessarily be facing the right direction, but that's okay. Again, the idea here is how we teach Carol a new command is using these functions. We use the keyword function followed by the name of the function we want to give it, and then the commands that we're going to give it. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation. Okay, in a second here, we're going to break into breakout rooms, and I'm going to have you guys work on a worksheet together. So you're going to take about 5 minutes in small groups to go through this worksheet. The worksheet has Carol, some Carol final worlds, and it has a chance for you to kind of look through it, figure out what's going to happen when you execute code. Now, I don't expect you guys to draw the final worlds in virtually, but you can take some time to discuss it with your group. You can also take some time just to discuss how you would actually use a worksheet like this. And would you use this as an opener to a lesson? Would you use it as homework, or would you use it in pairs to kind of reinforce concepts? Feel free to discuss that as well in your breakout groups. But take about 5 minutes to explore this worksheet. When you do get there, you're going to follow this link, and depending on your breakout room, you're going to pick a worksheet and go through it that way. So you can, if you're in breakout room 5, find the worksheet for group 5 and use it that way. Okay, so whenever we're ready, we'll start those breakout rooms, and we'll have about 5 minutes to go.
All right, those rooms are started. You just have to click the pop-up that shows up for you to join your room. And the link to this folder is going to be found in your workbook.
All right, so it looks like
Dave,
everyone's
you're
back from the
muted.
breakout rooms. And so we're going to move on here. So next task that I have is just taking a quick look at one of our exercises. And again, you'll find the link to this in our workbook. So I'm going to have you guys spend a few minutes, spend about 5 minutes or so working through the exercises, starting with Fireman Carol. If you do finish Fireman Carol, you can move on to Slide Carol. But for now, just working on Fireman Carol. When you are done, you'll find in the participants reaction section, there's a spot to raise your hand. So go ahead and raise your hand and we'll know that you're done and ready to move on. But we'll give you about 5 minutes or so to work on Fireman Carol. So a couple of you are saying you don't see Fireman Carol. I'm just taking a look right now and see.
It's on the week.
Yeah, make sure you are logged in. If you aren't logged in, I'm not sure you will see the Fireman Carol. But if you're logged in, it should hopefully be taking you to the exercise. All right, so go ahead and finish up where you're at. We'll get started back here in a second. All right, before we go any further, just want to wrap up. Are there any questions that came about as far as Fireman Carol? Okay, so homework would be then assigning out your slide Carol exercises if you have not finished that. And again, you can actually go through as much of this course as you want after the PD. But I do want to talk a little bit about some alterations that we did. So I kind of presented this lesson a little bit different than how you may traditionally present a lesson. So we did not necessarily go through the video. So one thing you can do is you can actually kind of teach the content yourself. You can also teach through the slides. And so you have a copy of all of our slides. If you want to go through them yourself instead of using the video, you can do that. It can be helpful sometimes for you to present things, and then the kids have the videos as a backup. So if they need additional content, they can look back through the videos. You can also have the videos, have students watch the videos before or after class. The examples in this lesson, we went through the examples as a group and kind of work through them together. You can also do the same thing or have the kids go through it. From my experience, kids tend to skip through the examples pretty quickly, and so you need some things to sort of slow them down. A lot of our lesson plans actually have some questions to have them think through as they go through the examples. You could also create a worksheet or something like that to have them work through the example and make alterations. But it's a good place for them to practice because they don't have anything they have to turn in, so they can kind of go ahead and break the code if they want to and then fool around with it. Exercises, again, completing exercises individually or small groups or pairs works. We're going to look at pair programming a little bit later today. And then also having opening and closing discussions, short quizzes, things like that, and workbook and worksheets that you can use with class. Now, one thing to think about with the lessons is that you're going to have students that work faster and slower through lessons. And so you got to think about how do you keep them together and how do you adjust for that. And what I used in the classroom is, I often would let them work through 2 or 3 lessons, and then I'd bring everybody back by saying, okay, at this point, you're going to stop, and now I'm going to present the slides. So maybe every couple of lessons, you're presenting the slides so that you're getting everybody in the same spot, or you're putting a pair activity or a group activity to keep everybody from kind of moving too far ahead. But if you just let them go through all the content, you're going to have some students that finish the module before other students are finishing the first lesson. So keep that in mind. How can you keep them together as much as possible? In a second, we're going to start with the create task. I'm going to pass this off to Linda. But in the meantime, or before that, I do want to touch on a question that we got in the parking lot. You're going to find that some students come into the course with some knowledge and have done programming before and maybe have programmed in a different language. One thing that's nice about the CodeHS courses is you can customize them if you want to. So you could even create an AP CSP in Java if you wanted to by replacing some of the units that we have, the programming units, with Java units, or you can add additional challenging units for students. And as they get into the create task, we're going to talk about some resources on our platform that cover the create task, but students can really use any language that they may know. You're not really limited to JavaScript or Python if students come in with that knowledge of something else. So keep that in mind. And with that said, I'm going to pass it off to Linda. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so she can present her material.
Thank you so much, everyone. Sorry about that. My unmute button was going away. So I'm excited to be here. I taught AP CSP for the last 5 years, including this past year where the rubric changed over to a new format with new competencies and also a new rubric for the create task. So what I want to do today is just kind of demystify some of the AP CSP create task rows, and we're going to go through the rubric kind of at a high level, but this is oftentimes what seems to be the most difficult part to kind of wrap our minds around. So especially for our new teachers. I want to make sure to answer any questions you have. We're also going to take a look at a couple of samples and score them ourselves and kind of see the format of the scoring as well. So first and foremost, what is the create task? So if you have not taught AP CSP before, it is a portfolio that demonstrates really their coding proficiency. And so it's about writing the program and also explaining the program. So students are given at least 12 hours of class time to work on that particular project. And again, those hours don't have to be consecutive. So if you wanted to maybe take some time in the middle, go over a little bit about Rubric, perhaps even have them do some scoring of their own, it really is helpful for students to be able to see that process. Students can work independently or for the most part should work independently, but they have options to collaborate. Now, something to keep in mind is that there are specific requirements on what they can and cannot collaborate on. So really, when it comes to collaboration, perhaps a student can take a larger program and break it up into different pieces. So a great example Dave has used in the past is just to create maybe a weather app, and maybe you have one student working on the local forecast while the other student may be working on the long-term forecast. So each of them has a significant portion and their own types of data sets that they'll be working with. But again, although it will all come together in one app, perhaps they are both working on separate pieces of that particular program. So there is no specific requirement for what language they need to follow. So if it is a language agnostic test. So the end of course exam does not have a particular programming language. We're really looking at concepts, but the program itself that they submit for their create task can be created in Python or JavaScript, as each of our courses allow them to. If they have knowledge of another programming language, they can certainly use that, but most students stick with the programming language that they use in their course and that was taught in their course. This particular portion of the exam accounts for 30% of their overall AP exam score. So high-level requirements, their program will require inputs. So again, a user may input information, via typing in text, or the inputs may be utilized by buttons or sliders. It really depends on the type of program the student is building. So you want to make sure to emphasize, though, that they need to make use of at least one list or other type of data collection to represent, how that data is stored. At least one procedure needs to be created by the student and contributes to the overall intended purpose of the program. Again, that function needs to have a significant, it needs to be significant enough that if we were to take that procedure or function out, the program would no longer run as intended. An algorithm at least one algorithm needs to include sequencing, selection, and iteration. If you have selection and iteration, by default, you'll have sequencing. And they also need to have instructions, for output. So what type of input does the program take, and what type of output will it display to the user? So whether that's tactile, audible, visual, textual. We're going to really dive a little bit more deeply into these in a minute, but there's some written response prompts. You're going to see these details in these two links. However, we're really just going to look at a quick overview together today. So first and foremost, you see that it says prompt 3A, and the first time I saw this, I thought it was a little strange, but the first and second task that the student needs to complete is actually a video and also actually uploading all of their code for their program. So when we say prompt 3A, that really means we're starting at the third part of their overall create task. So this part, 3A, really describes the purpose of the program and the input and output. Now, really important to know, the video needs to show the program running, and the written responses need to talk to what is actually in the video. So something important to note, and this is just a tip for you, coming from some of my colleagues that were AP readers this past year, they said it's really important to emphasize the difference between the purpose of the program and how it functions. And oftentimes students can use those two words interchangeably. So what you can do is think of it like this, like the purpose, let's say, of an oven. So the purpose of an oven is to, cook delicious food, but the way that it functions is very different from its purpose. So, the way that it functions is maybe it has a gas or electric heating element. It heats the inside and warms, the air, and then it warms it to a designated temperature. Of course, those two things are, different, but they really are describing an oven, both of them. So think difference between purpose and function, really, really important for them to emphasize that. In prompt 3B, this one shows the use of a list and describes how it can be used to manage the complexity of the program. So the data can be student created. It could also be a part of a data set. The list needs to be identified, and they will identify the name of the variable representing the list and used in the particular response. And it also describes what data contained in the list is represented in the program. Something to keep in mind here is the list cannot be trivial. And what I mean by that is if it can be accomplished with just a couple of variables, it's either this or this, that's not enough of a reason to use a list. So make sure that the students are using a significant amount of data in that list in order for it to really require it. Otherwise, they won't get the point for that row. 3B, this particular prompt shows the students have to show the use of the list and describe how it, whoops, did I not go to the next one? Sorry here. Okay. 3C, this one provides a user-created procedure and a call to that procedure. So this describes what the identified procedure does and how it contributes to the overall functionality of the program. So again, this is where I was kind of saying it's really, really important to note that the procedure that they create, so it's, the function could be, function bake cake, it needs to contribute to the overall purpose of the program. And it also needs to be something that is being utilized in the video. So if the video shows perhaps a different part of the program that isn't being identified in this particular row, they may not be able to receive the point. Row 5, this provides a user-created procedure and a call to that procedure. The procedure needs to include sequencing, selection, and iteration. So I wanted to just kind of break down what that means. So sequencing is just a steps in an algorithm. It could be something as easy as what Carol does: move, put ball, take ball. That would be considered just a sequence of procedure, or a sequence of different prompts within that particular procedure. But the selection is really an if or an if-else statement. Something where you're picking one versus the other. We're selecting something within the list. Iteration stands for, really, it could be a loop, a while, or a for loop works as iteration. Selection and iteration, again, can't be trivial. So if it's easier to perform that algorithm with less code and it's unnecessary, they may not receive the point for this row as well. So it's really important to note that. So we're going to take a look at the samples. And now we're going to score these. I want to just show you what this looks like real quick, but this is also included in your workbook. So we're going to break into groups now and take a look at these two samples. Now, sample A includes the instructions, as you can see, kind of goes through the same bullets that I went through in the presentation. You have the full code, you can run it, and you will see the video as well and the written responses from the student. So this is our sample student giving their written responses for 3A, 3B, 3C. And you'll also be able to see those code segments. When your student submits the crate test, they'll also have to provide specific code segments relating to those different rows. And then we also have a sample B, same procedure, and you can also run that program. So these links are included in the workbook, and we're going to go ahead and I will take it back to Julia to go ahead and break us into groups.
All right. So you have those in your workbook, and I'm going to open up the rooms now. You'll just have to click that pop-up to join your room.
All right, as everyone is coming back, we want to look at sample A. So if you could real quickly in the chat, based on what you and your group discussed, how do you think sample A did? Go ahead and give me a, how many out of 6? And you can throw that in the chat for me. So was it a 6 out of 6, a 5 out of 6? What are your thoughts? Okay.
We didn't get far
Chris
enough.
There's not enough time to absorb it all.
Okay. Okay. Well, just want to give you a couple of more links. And these are also included in your workbook. So this is where I'm working from. And these links actually have not only the tasks themselves, but also the scoring at the bottom. So for performance task A, I'm just going to scroll to the bottom here. And you can see from the point of the written responses, did the student actually submit everything they needed to get rows 3A through 3D? So it looks like the overall score, those of you that said 6 out of 6 on that sample A, great job. Yes, 6 out of 6. The response earned the point. The video demonstrated the program. We met the criteria on row 2, where there were 2 distinct code segments there, and the list described as first number. And so you can see it storing a list of numbers. And row 3 earned the point. It did, again, explain the list well. Row 4, there's 2 distinct code segments and 1 defining a function that would calculate with the type of parameter that has been selected. And then finally, row 5 includes sequencing, selection, iteration, and there are 2 different calls, M and D. So I'm going to go ahead and look at sample B now. Sample B, this one did come as well with scoring. So if you got as far as sample B, you would have seen a function that includes the encryption of a message. And this one, in fact, and I'm going to scroll to the bottom here a little bit faster. This one, in fact, only received a 3 out of 6. So you can see some of the scoring criteria here. It's always helpful to go through some of these things with your students as well, and have them score, another person's work, maybe not within their class, but a sample one. So the response did earn a point for row 1. The response also earned a point for row 2. It did not earn a point for row 3, even though the program states how it manages complexity. The list really isn't necessary. If you look at it, it really has a message and then the encrypted message. And those 2 can just be used interchangeably with a variable without really necessitating a list. And then the response earned a point for row 4. It did not earn a point for row 5. The select algorithm needed sequencing, selection, and iteration. Does not state how the selection statement is being used though. And then finally, row 6, it didn't earn the point because it did not meet the first requirement. So the 2 different calls are described. And so for each code segment that's executed is described. However, one of the test runs needs the else cause of the statement to actually be engaged. So if you have an if else statement, make sure one call engages the if, the other engages the else. All right, so just looking back here, couple of tips here on the submission. So they are going to submit the video, and you've seen some sample videos there in the samples themselves, as well as the full program code. The written responses are entirely typed in to the College Board system, there is a template that you can utilize. Students can access that through AP Classroom, but also digitalportfolio.collegeboard.org is what takes you to the actual digital portfolio. They see things a little bit differently than you do. When a student submits their work, they will have to go through a checklist of, statements to state that, this is in fact their own work, and a few other College Board type statements to make sure that they verify that this is something that they have created and they understand kind of the terms and conditions, so to speak. And then they will hit finalize. Now, you as the teacher can, their work will be locked once they have finalized those changes. But if there's an issue, and oftentimes I found that in my own classroom, they would submit the written assignment where they were supposed to submit the program code or vice versa, or they put the video where the program code is supposed to go. And what you can do is you can simply return that work to them if there is an error. There are some error codes that are included, and you can simply resubmit that back to them. Couple of tips.
Do you have a copy of those forms? Is that in the homework where they're located?
I don't.
Can you stick it in the chat so I can just
Sure.
copy it out quick?
If you go to AP Classroom and also in digitalportfolio.collegeboard.org, that's where you're going to be able to find two listed on the left-hand nav bar. You can toggle between the written responses or the video or the program code. And under written responses, you'll also see a template there.
Can you add the link somewhere? So, because I'm not going to be able to write those down fast enough.
Sure, not a problem. So let me go ahead and grab that for you. There we go, MR has it. So you're required to give at least 12 hours overall time for them to work on that project. But again, you can take a break, maybe every 8 hours or so, take a break, review the rubric with your students. This is a great way to get them kind of engaged with the scoring process so that they know what it is that they're going to be scored from. Stress to students that it's not a time for a super complex program. So anything that works and has all the requirements is great. A lot of my students would spend endless hours trying to design something amazing, but then never get to the programming part, which again, we want the bulk of it to be them actually writing the code. And make sure that all the students complete the task and use it as a grade. So I used to have a way to score them myself. I don't provide feedback on those finalized submissions, but simply checking off the box and knowing that it's there and everything's turned in could serve as a grade. So something to motivate them. So a couple last things. We do have some available practice create tasks, and this I also used as a test grade for my courses. There's a pair programming paint. That project actually is included in kind of like the supplemental materials for the course. And you can also find a shopping list. You can see it down there at the bottom left. That one is, again, found in the supplemental materials, but both of these were new last year and they were aligned to the new create tasks. So testing 1, 2, 3 is more formative. And this one focuses on row 6. So testing with different values passed through the function. So this is a great one if your students are struggling with row 6 in particular. The shopping list is more summative. So it covers everything that is on the create task. And again, these other exercises are built into the course and just as a part of the course progression so that you can help prepare your students for the create task. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Dave.
Yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute break. So we'll come back at 1:15. So we'll see you guys in 5 minutes. And then we're going to go through some tools and other resources. All right, we're going to get started back up here in a few seconds.
I'm sorry, can I just ask a quick question? The exercises that were shown on the previous slide, where were those at? With the little icons, the testing 1, 2, 3?
Yep. So testing 1, 2, 3 and the shopping list are actually in our supplemental. Oh, sorry. The others are scattered throughout the course. So the shopping list and testing 1, 2, 3 are our newest two. So we have those in supplemental right now until we can get the syllabus updated with College Board. But those are actually two good ones to practice. You can add them into the main course. And Julia's going to walk through how you can make alterations and add stuff from supplemental content into the course.
I'm sorry, where is the supplemental? I don't know where that is.
Yeah, so I'll have Julia show you that when she gets to that part. She'll be better at showing you that. There's a way to add the content and move it from supplemental into the main course, and Julia can walk through that process.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, and one thing, just looking at some of the chats, when I taught this course, I had 45-minute or 50-minute periods, and what I did was I took the first 5 minutes of every period to go over a concept, and then I gave them 45 minutes to work on the create task. So every 5 minutes of every class, I had so many classes to get my 12 hours in, but I spent 5 minutes at the beginning of every class just reviewing something that was important for that day. So maybe reminding them how to go through the rubric, or reminding them about what a list is, or things like that, just to kind of refresh their memory in that. So you can give them very generic instruction during the create task. It just can't be specific to a student. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about other resources that you have available, and then also give you guys a few minutes to take a look at our collaboration tool. So in addition to our main course, we have CodeHS Practice. CodeHS Practice was launched in February of 2020 and contains hundreds of short practice problems in several languages, including both JavaScript and Python. They're set up as a unit test layout where students complete a function with a return value. And these can be completed independently for students, or they can be assigned to a class. And they're perfect to really help with practicing problem-solving skills, or to brush up on language syntax. And even though the final test is language agnostic, seeing those coding concepts and practicing those coding concepts are important, and using the practice is a great way to help kind of review some of that, preparing for that final test. We also have an AP Csp Review Course. So this is in addition to the content that you see in the main course. You can add students to this when you get to the spring. And this really contains a whole bunch of multiple choice questions. Some of the questions are based on the content that they have here, and then others come from our reader question bank. In our reader question bank are peer-reviewed questions that were set up to be very similar to questions that they may see on the AP CSP exam. In addition to resources we have at CodeHS, we also have some external resources that you may want to make sure you're using. So AP Classroom has quite a bit of material for you. It has different pieces to help you pace, has different practice tests. There's AP Daily, which has different review videos and things like that. You'll also find the course exam in description, as well as other sample create tasks with sample scoring guides. The AP community, there's a couple different AP communities that you want to make use of. The Facebook APCS Principals Teachers community is very active and has a lot of great places to help and that people share, as well as the CodeHS Educators Facebook group. So you can find both of those on Facebook and through these links here. And a couple other resources that are here. So we have things like the CodeHS Week 0 plan. So if you're looking to find things to get going at the start of your school year, you can check out codehs.com/week0. These aren't necessarily specific to AP CSP, and a whole bunch of other resources here. And again, these links are available. You can actually find this presentation in the demo section resources, and you'll be able to click through these resources that way. All right, before I pass off to Julia to go through tools, I do want to talk about our collaboration tool that we have. This is relatively new and was a feature that many teachers had requested. So using the collaboration tool, students can work on a project at the same time in the CodeHS sandbox. So multiple students can work together. They can essentially type through it together. They run it independently, but they can type on the screen together. And then when they want to, if they need to turn it in or if they want to make it their own, they can then fork the code over and they can actually get their own copy of the code as they do it. There's a great resource for pair programming or group projects that you want to do that with. And we're going to give you guys about 5 minutes or so to try this out. So we're going to send you a link to different breakout rooms. And this time you're going to actually choose the breakout room based on the language that you may want to explore and your comfort with the language. So we have different tasks that are, level 1, level 2, and level 3. All 3 of them are relatively straightforward. They do require multiple lines of code so that you can actually have a chance to look at that. And again, we're going to let you guys choose the breakout rooms, follow the link that was placed in chat or that you find in the workbook. And then based on the level that you want, you can pick a room, and then based on that room, pick a breakout room so that you can collaborate together. Any problems, just let us know. We're going to give you about 5 minutes or so to complete this, and then we'll go from there.
All right, I'm opening our rooms. So you'll just have to choose which room you want to go to based on the exercise you want to complete. And if you aren't sure, that's totally fine. You can still get a good look at this collaboration tool by going through, going into one of these rooms where someone is. So try not to join room 1 where it seems like everyone wants to be.
Sorry, I'm not seeing the link to join a room on my choices.
Thank you, same.
No problem. Thanks for letting us know. I think you should see a participants at the bottom of your Zoom, and you should be able to choose. You should see all the rooms and be able to join one of them. Do you see that?
No, when I click the little up here, it just says invite.
Yeah, I'm
Is
in.
there maybe in more?
Okay, let me check there.
Breakout
I
rooms.
can see who's in the breakout rooms when I click on the breakout room link. And when I go to try to click on one, it doesn't do anything.
So I know that what I see is definitely different from you, but you should be able to like hover over the room and click join.
Yeah, I'm not.
I think.
Yeah, click on the buttons.
And I had this issue when I led a webinar. Are you able to, next to my name, just push me into a group?
Yeah.
Like 6?
I
Sure.
found where it is, if you guys can hear me. If you go to the room, instead of clicking on where it says room 5 or room 4, go to the number where it says 0, 3, or how many people, and click on that. So I'm gonna leave.
Yeah, it says join if you click on the number.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Enza.
No problem, no problem. Are you leaving? I'm going to a breakout room, hon.
And if you're still having trouble, we can definitely just put you into a room. So just let us know.
Yeah, but if you click on there should be a blue link on the number of the room and just click there and it'll give you the option to join, or hover and it'll give you the option to join.
Tricky Zoom.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
We
still not.
definitely want you to take a look. Okay, Cheryl, did you want to go to room 6, you said?
Can you put me in room 8, actually? Let me just go to room 8.
Perfect. I'll
Great.
send you there.
Thank you.
If anyone else needs, awesome. Thanks,
Can you-
Valerie. I see you
Can you put me in
in the
room
chat.
1?
I can. Alex, room 1. Perfect. There you go. And here we were thinking we could do some cool stuff with Zoom. Okay, I think Valerie is gone. Julia, I will put you into room 7. And anyone else that needs a place to go, let me know, because we definitely want you
Kelly,
to be able to
okay.
try out this Collaborate tool. Kelly, to where?
Any room.
Room 8 is
See you on
good.
my list.
Cheryl's by herself.
Kelly, it looks like you are already set to go to room 3. I can move you.
Yeah, I was 1 and then I was 3. It's just not going in.
Okay, no problem. You want to go to 8, you said?
Yeah, I moved her to 8.
Okay, you should see a pop-up. Sorry, we thought Zoom was a little bit more, had their stuff together after almost 2 years of living on Zoom.
Everything seems to always change where things are.
I know, they're like, updates, updates. So if anyone wants to go try the advanced level 3 Python, we have only one person working on that alone, and it's way more fun to collaborate. So you can let us know in the chat or just unmute.
Yeah, I'm also seeing some people are in the rooms collaborating. They're just not in the Zoom room.
That works too. All right, I see we have some people coming back. I'm gonna wait another 40 seconds for all those rooms to close, everyone to join us back so we can close up our session today with some teacher tools and resources on CodeHS. Awesome. Hopefully you guys were able to try out that Collaborate tool and see how awesome it is. We had a lot of teachers ask us for a tool like that last year, and our awesome engineers made it happen. So I love it. It's just getting better and better. All right, awesome. So it looks like everyone should be back with us now. Great. So hopefully you guys were able to see how that Collaborate tool works and think about how you could use that with your students. If you want more information, we have a help article that gives a lot of good info about how you could use this collaboration tool with your students. So just write that in the question parking lot and we'll make sure we give that link to you there. And awesome, so we are going to, we're gonna switch over and take a look at our teacher tools and resources on CodeHS. So what are the general tools that we have for you to use so that you can lead the most successful class with your students? Where can you find these resources that we use? I know we're going to look at how we can find supplemental and add it to our courses as well, because a lot of people were asking about that. So let's hop in here. So when you take a look at the slide deck, which like Dave said, the slides are actually linked in your demo course. There's an activity where you can find those slides. And they'll also be sent out along with the recording for today to you in an email. But you're going to get this slide deck and you're going to see a lot of these tools that we're going to talk about, a lot of images and info about them. And my computer is running a little slow because of Zoom, I think, but you'll be able to see all of these tools and get some info there. But instead of just going through the slides, I'm going to show you how we'll go through this information on the actual site. So you can either, if you are someone who has been to a bunch of these, I know I see a lot of familiar faces and familiar names, you can go along with me, try to see these tools on CodeHS on your end. If you're totally brand new to CodeHS, it's a good idea to just sit back and watch. And if anything sparks your curiosity, you're like, I really want some more information on how to use this tool, write that into the parking lot so we can give you some help articles and more info there. All right, so I'm going to go through a bunch of tools. We only have about 20 minutes left. So I'm going to go pretty quickly. If you are totally brand new, you have never seen CodeHS, think of this as just seeing all the options. Don't get overwhelmed because there are so many things that you can do on CodeHS, and that is not my goal. My goal is for you to see how many tools and resources we have available for you. And then once you are ready to get more info about those, you can dive in deeper. And we have both a new computer science teacher and we have, I think, just a new computer science teacher workshop that's going to be coming up in a few weeks as well. So if you need more info about like, how do I actually just get started, make sure you join that workshop, you register for that, and we're going to send the link out to that after this session. All right, so when you first log into CodeHS, you're going to see a page that looks really similar to this. You may have a bunch more here. You may only have one if you just made your account. These are all your sections. And the difference between a section and a course is the course is the actual content, right? So both of these sections are Intro.js. So they're both teaching our Intro to JavaScript course. But you can have multiple sections teaching the same course. So if you have period 1 CSP and period 2 CSP, you can have them in 2 separate sections to make your life easier. So you'll have your sections, and when you click into your section, you'll see I have lots of things loaded already up here. So instead of clicking in here, I'm just going to move to my next tab. But this is what you'll see here once you click onto a section. You'll see all the students, and right now you may not have any students in there, but you'll see the students, and you'll see a lot of different options here. You'll get info at the top if you click this plus about how to bring students into your classroom. So you'll get that unique code with the unique identifier, like how you joined our demo section today. And that's what you would share with your students. And we have a lot of tools here that are helpful for communication and tracking your students. So the first one that I want to show you is this announcements. If you are looking to send an announcement to your class, once they log into CodeHS, just ping them with, something that, like me, whenever I'm teaching, the bell rings and I'm like, oh, I forgot to tell you what homework is. So then, you can write it in the announcements and make sure that you'll get them there. And once you send announcements, you'll have a list at the bottom here of the announcements that you've sent. So you can keep track about which announcements you've sent to which group of students. We also have a way for you to communicate with a single student, which is the conversation link right here. So you can have a conversation with each separate student. And this is just totally independent of anything in the course. There are also ways for you to communicate with a student on a specific exercise, give them feedback or things like that. And I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. But this conversation is a great way for you to just check in with the student individually and make sure that, you give them whatever info they need. All right, and the last tool right on this main page that I want to show you is this attendance. This is a really nice way for you to just track what students have logged on and when. So you'll see the date up here. This is the time they first logged on that date, their most recent activity, the time of that, and how long they have spent on the site on that day. You can also see this at an overview by clicking weekly attendance, and you'll be able to see Monday through Friday, all of your students and if they have logged in or not. And maybe it will take a little bit to load, which is why I don't like clicking things on Zoom. So you'll see Monday through Sunday, and you'll be able to see which students have logged on. So it's the summer, no one's logging on. All right. Then up at the top, you're going to see a bunch of different options, and a lot of them are on the side as well. So there's multiple nav bars. This one can collapse so you can get more space. Lots of different ways to get to the same thing. But if we click on assignments either here or here, this is a list of the actual content in the course. So my course right now is Intro.js. So it's starting with Carol, it's going through JavaScript graphics, functions, blah, blah, blah. And you can expand each of these sections to see all of the lessons in the module and all of the activities in the lesson. And you'll see a lot of these quick links right here will give you direct access to these resources. So like the lesson plan is really helpful. You can say, okay, I'm teaching this first lesson with my students. Let me check out the lesson plan and see what is there. You'll also be able to preview right from here. You'll be able to see the solutions. So any solutions are going to be available to any of our exercises there. You can also switch to see the course as a student, but I know someone, we were trying to see how can we add different things to our course. So say that this was our general CSP course and you're saying, okay, well, I want to change this around, right? One thing, if you are someone who says, all my students are advanced, they all already have foundational skills, I don't want them to do the Programming with Carol module. One option that you have, there are multiple options, but one is just to remove this module completely. And this will put it into a trash bin. There is a way for you to access it. I'm not going to show you right now, but if you do delete something by accident, you can bring it back. So don't worry about that. But you do have the option to remove right from there. What if we wanted to add instead of remove? So here we have some options to add content from other courses, other CodeHS courses, or from content that you build yourself. So you can add a module from here, a lesson or an assignment, and you can go add a sandbox program, or you can add from another CodeHS course. So if you click here, it will bring up other courses and you can add content to maybe mix and match different content together. You also have that option Sorry, my Zoom is really taking up a lot of my computer's time right now. So we were looking for supplemental. So at the very bottom, you'll see search for content. If we expand that section, so we'll just click there. Of course, it was working so fast for me before I was screen sharing. If we expand the search for content section, which it's trying to do, awesome, you'll see supplemental materials. And this will be a lot of different types of things. So those create tasks are some of those will be in supplemental that you can add those, you can assign those, preview those right here, bring those right into your class. A lot of extra practice for our JavaScript. This is for our JavaScript class. So there's a lot of different, simulations and things will work with the content that they have learned here. And you can get a lot more info about where these supplemental materials are best used in the syllabus. And I'll show you how to get the syllabus as well. All right. So, all right, let's dive into some more tools. So what do we have next? I'm just going to close this out because it is really working. Okay. So next, let's see, look at some progress. So up here, if we click on assignment progress or progress on the side, you'll see a list of all of the activities, and you'll see this key, which shows the different colors based on where an assignment is. So if a student has not started that assignment yet, hasn't even clicked into it, it will be that gray. If they've clicked into it, but they haven't finished it,
Julia?
Yep.
Sorry, your screen is frozen, so we're not able to follow anything. If you turn off your video, that might improve your streaming. So your screen share should be fine if you turn off your video.
Yeah, it's not even letting me get there. Just give me 1 second. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, I'm glad it's just not me. I thought I was the only one who wasn't seeing it.
Thought the same thing.
It's hard to learn about tools if I can't show it to you. Yeah. All right, let's see if we can make this happen here. Trying to turn off video. Let's go. And I'm literally next to my router, so there's no closer I could get. Sorry, everyone, give me 1 second. This is why I load everything up early, but I guess that just wasn't enough today.
Having flashbacks to last year. Things not loading.
I know.
Teaching virtually.
Yeah, I know. It's nice doing demos after this year because every teacher now understands. Oh my goodness, this is so frozen. It's not letting me do anything. All right, let me see here. Okay, I think this should help a little. All right, closing this out. All right, let's see now if we can make this happen. All right, are you able to see my screen now?
Nope. Starting, it's saying started screen sharing, so it's probably coming.
Sorry, I missed that. Is everyone? No. should be able to see it now.
I still can't see it, Julia.
Can anyone see?
I can't see it. Nope. It says you started sharing your screen.
All right. No? Are people there? I'm sorry.
Now I can see it.
Now we're
Now we
there.
can see it.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Oh my. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through some really main parts. So at least I got to show you supplemental, and please let me know in the chat if something goes wrong. I don't know, they're doing construction next door. Maybe they're knocking down some wires or something. Okay, so really quick. So here is our grade book, and you can get here from the top up here or on the side. And you'll see that same colored key that I was talking about before. I don't know if you could have seen it, but the colors correspond to different locations of the assignments in the grading scheme. So if it's gray, it means that students haven't clicked into that yet. Yellow means they've clicked in, but they haven't submitted. So they might have gotten started. They haven't submitted it yet. Green means it's submitted, but it's ready for you to grade. And this teal means that it's graded, it's ready to go. And the different pink colors mean that you have reviewed it and maybe sent it back to a student so they get more, they will do more changes, make some changes to their code. So you'll see here that you can hover over and see what those colors are. And one really awesome way to grade, which a lot of teachers I think don't know about, is that from the gradebook, you can click into any of these activities and open that specific activity, that exercise, and see a lot of different information, and then give you some ways that you can grade right here. So you'll see the status, you'll see the score, you can view this right from here. If this is something where you want to give everyone full credit, you can just check everything and say, okay, everyone, worked on this, so you're good. And you can hop right into fast grade from here. And one of the benefits of doing this is that once you go into fast grade, now you're only seeing that specific assignment. So I know that when I'm grading, I don't like to, grade different assignments at one time, because then my brain is everywhere. I like to grade one assignment, I know what it should be, and I can go back to back to back. So fast grade is a pro tool. It's a really helpful way to grade. You can give a score, you can give feedback right here, and as soon as you grade something, it will bring you the next one up. But there are other ways for you to grade as well. So if we go to the review tab or code review on the side, you'll see that grade mode is a free tool. So anyone is able to grade on CodeHS. Fast grade is just a different way of grading that allows you to have a different view. If you're in grade mode, you'll see the student's editor, and you can still give them feedback, still give them a grade, still communicate with them right there. And speaking of communicating with students on a specific exercise, here you'll see all of the messages that students have sent to you. If they need some help on an exercise, it will pop up here. And so the same way you can go into grade mode or fast grade to grade assignments, you can go into help mode to go through each of these questions back to back, so that you can go to the first question, answer it, go to the next one. So that's the help mode up here. Something that I definitely want to focus on today are the resources. So we talked about lesson plans and we saw some handouts. If you go to resources on the side here, you'll see all the resources, and you can you'll see that for which course you're in. So you can see the handouts, the lesson plans, problem guides, all of these resources that we have here are available to everyone for the first 5 lessons for free. So even if you don't have a pro access, you can get all of those resources for those first 5 lessons of the course for free, of any course. So you can check out those lesson plans, and there's a lot of teachers who teach for years on free. When I was in the classroom and I was using CodeHS, I was using the free. I didn't actually even know that Pro existed. So the lesson plans, you can check out those first 5 and you can always extrapolate those for the rest of the course if you, get a feel for how those lesson plans are written, and then complete your own as you want to. Those first week resources are here as well. Syllabus is all here. There's offline assessments. There's a lot of really, really good stuff here. So definitely make sure you check out those resources, because this is one thing that I think a lot of teachers don't even know exists. They just see the assignments of the course and they say, that's it. But here, there's a lot of extra help for you. And speaking of pro versus free, I know that there's always questions. So if we are in our main section and we click more, all tools, or if you go to the toolbox and you click view full toolbox, you'll see this page. That looks a little scary. There's a lot of info, but I think this page is really helpful because it tells you all of the tools that we have available, a short description, and what plan they are a part of. So if you are on the free plan, which I am right now, I know exactly what tools I won't be able to use. So this is a really easy way to just know what's available to me. And one thing that I love about this page is that we have these links right here. If I know I want to go into the course catalog, but I'm like, how is this, what is this telling me? I can go right to the help article or a video demo. So I get a lot of good info on this all tools page. All right, the last thing, actually, I don't think I'm going to even maybe skip the course catalog, but you can find the course catalog by going to my courses and view course catalog, or it's also in the toolbox. Everything's in the toolbox. And this you can search and find, we are looking at CSP, but there are so many other courses that you can take a look at, and there's different versions of CSP. So make sure that you take a look there. You can search just for AP and see all of the ones that we have available here. There's that cybersecurity course that Dave was talking about earlier. All right. Okay, so I think I don't want us to, I don't want to hold you any longer because I know you already have dealt with my crazy Zoom today. Okay, so just to finish up today, I want to let you know about some other opportunities that we have. So we have a certified educator program at CodeHS. So if you want more information about that, you can actually go to CodeHS/certified educator, or just ask in the parking lot. We'll give you that link there. As Dave mentioned, we have a CodeHS educators group. So I saw in the chat some people asking, who does this? When do you guys start to create? Those conversations are so helpful. And it's really, really nice to have other teachers to chat with those things about. So that's a really great place for you to do that. We also have a lot of other workshops. So I told you we have that new CS teacher workshop that's coming up in a few weeks. We also have some more workshops that we're going to be leading on other courses that we have available in the next few weeks as well. So make sure you check those out there. And we have a feedback survey today. Sorry that I can't do much about Zoom, so I'm sure that a lot of people will say that. But we would love to know if there was anything we could do better, anything that you came looking for today that you didn't find. Our goal is to make sure that we are giving you as much information as possible that you can bring directly into your classroom. So I think we threw that in the chat. I only have one screen now because my computer's going crazy. So hopefully that is there. And the very last thing before we finish up, we will be able to send you a certificate if you're looking for that to show your hours spent here today. So just head over to CSP-certificate, and there's a quick Google form. I say this every time, but every single workshop, I get someone who puts their email in wrong. So make sure that you double check your email so that I can be sure you get that certificate for being here today. All right, and I'm gonna open the chat and just see. Awesome. Okay, so it looks like we are set. That question parking lot doc is going to stay available. So if you want to refer back to that, see any of those links that were given there, that is ready for you. And thank you so much for coming here, spending some time with us. We hope to see you at another workshop where I promise I will fix our Zoom issues. All right. Have a great day, everyone, and hope to see you soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Julia, is the workshop new CS teacher? Is that the one you're referring to?
Yep. That one will start from scratch, give you all the info you need.
For APCSP?
For teaching any course on CodeHS.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
And you have the list, you have the link there? Hold on.
Yep, there should be the link to the other workshops.
One sec, I can grab that link.
Sounds good. Thank you.
There it is.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you. Have a great day. And I think I'm not a host anymore, so if someone could end it, that would be awesome. Thank you.